So get out your feelings right now. Let's be objective here. Let's keep it honest and real and authentic. Out of all the manga this week released, from the Jujutsu Kaisens to the Chainsaw Mans, One Piece, Black Clover, My Hero Academia, out of all the grandiose that we received, what's the best manga this week? Winner take all.
No matter how you feel, get it done. No matter how you feel, get it done. No matter how you feel, get it done. No matter how you feel, get it done.
Okay, people, welcome to Winner Take All, where we discuss all of the manga that went down this week, the important ones. And you're probably like, yo, Fornev, maybe I only read this one, maybe I only read that one, I'm a little bit behind. I got you covered. I'm gonna tell you what happened, and you're gonna be able to enjoy and keep on with the progress of this show, because we're gonna go into it all. We got segments, we got a lot of stuff here to break down, because yeah, it was an incredible one. And of course, we're gonna have to start with the GOAT piece, the one that raves through all of the rankings, which we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna address something big that a lot of y'all have been complaining about, and that's the popularity of One Piece in particular in our voting system. So we're gonna dive into that, but definitely let's jump into the beginning, because we've got to start it off. We got the GOAT piece, we've got One Piece. Now off rip, Green Bull in this episode will be getting a title. He will be getting a title, and I want to see if y'all agree with me, because the chapter 1055 starts off with Green Bull versus the Scabbards continuing on. And I'm not even gonna lie, for a moment there I was like, alright, dude is putting in work. He's pretty much, I don't want to say catching bodies, because of course, hello, nobody died, but ultimately he's giving them a run for their money. And I'm glad it was addressed in this chapter of what Momo was saying even in last chapter 1054. Yo, why can't Yamato lay a hand on, you know, this dude? Like, what's going on? I thought it was more so a political move. I thought he was thinking like, yo, if you attack, then they're gonna target Wano even further. That's what I was thinking. I was like, yo, is he really like this little kid, even though he's in a grown man body, but is he thinking in a political strategy? Like, what is up here? But as I stated, the Scabbards are getting work put in on them, and in particular, Raizo gets packed up, and I was just like, Jesus, like, why it had to be him, fam? Well, then again, it gotta be one of the Scabbards, right? And I was kind of not necessarily shocked, but I was like, okay then. I mean, at the end of the day, you gotta show a little bit of ferocity with Green Bull, because I'm gonna just keep it real. Green Bull was looking a little bit crusty in this chapter. He was a little crusty. He was putting in work, but at the same time, the way everything played out, and in particular, not even just about, you know, the work he was putting in, because at the end of the day, if it wasn't for outside interference, I don't know how they would have handled this, because they were starting to get a little upper hand, but it wasn't until, yeah, the red-haired one stepped in. But ultimately, Green Bull, we're gonna have a conversation about him in a bit. Another part of the chapter is going down to the bottom of the castle. We get to see a little bit more insight into what the heck is going on, because Wano, obviously very important. It's been foreshadowed 100 million years now, 100 million different things of Wano. There's a lot under there. There's weapons, all sorts of different stuff, and Odin's father brought even further clarification as to, yeah, just how far it goes. And definitely metaphoric, definitely diving into mythology in terms of Atlantis, because it's clear as day pretty much like old Wano is essentially the city of Atlantis, so to speak. Before the borders went up, everything was all gravy. The moment they put the borders up, water couldn't escape any longer, and essentially it drowned out a lot of those lost cities, and there lies below Wano the lost city of Wano, the lost city of Atlantis. And once again, Jack the Drought strikes, because it was due to him being a fisherman why Kaido and his people were able to find this place to begin with and find that poneglyph, because if it wasn't, they obviously, how the hell are you gonna get down there or whatnot? So Jack the Drought once again strikes, and I ain't gonna lie, if you think about it, he has been more integral to things than you realize. Like, it's little pieces here or there, but ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, Jack has been pretty damn good. Well, you can't say right-hand man, because King and Queen were Kaido's right-hand men, especially King, but ultimately, he's still been integral, because again, having that fisherman, I guess it also goes back into the constructs of a pirate crew. You gotta have certain key players to play their part, and in particular, having a fisherman, yeah, there are certain instances you need Jinbei to swim down there, because half the crew can't swim anyway, you know, they eat devil fruits, and then the other half, they can't survive going deep into the sea. So ultimately, it proves even further something that's been established in One Piece, that you need people to play their part, and Jack played his part very freaking well, despite it was quite evil. And I keep it real, some of this chapter was kind of reiterating things that we already know, that below there's, you know, the secret weapon, so to speak, although I don't know if it was confirmed that it was deep below, that's where the weapon was, but either way, the weapon of Pluton is below here, and 800 years ago, all this went down, which it's more so building even further. Like Oda, despite that we're in the final arc, he's building up even more. We're still getting build up, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but we're still getting build up as answers come along. Oda asks more questions of like, okay, so once again, what the hell happened 800 years ago? Why did they do these things? And I'd imagine also that plays into whatever Odin was thinking about, because Odin clearly knew everything about, you know, after a certain point, Wano and what was under there. So why would Odin necessarily even think about, yo dog, let's free Wano, let's take down the borders, when there's an ancient weapon under there? Unless he knows that it's too dangerous to keep enclosed under there, unless there's some sort of legend that, hey, once certain shit goes down, this weapon is going to be let loose, and maybe it'll self-destruct Wano. Maybe it could actually completely implode Wano from below, and that's why Odin's like, yeah, I think we gotta free things. On top of the fact that he just wants freedom, it's, you know, symbolic of feeling in captivity, but in essence, he pretty much probably thought that this is too dangerous to have below us, or that there's something even grander, that these weapons need to go somewhere and do a certain act, whether it be liberate the world or stop certain evils. He knew clearly that there was more to it, and the father, which is kind of crazy, like, yo, you passed down all of these legends, but even you didn't know what your son learned. Interesting. Just builds even further that Odin was that dude. In case you don't know, I am a massive Odin fanboy. He was just iconic, and he pretty much surpassed most characters in One Piece for me. He's like in my top 10 favorite One Piece characters of all time. I know that's a random note, but I wanted to throw it in there. And building into my whole thesis on Green Bull being just absolutely, let's just say, crusty, a walking L, so to speak. There we go, a walking L. When he starts babbling on that pretty much if he knew Kaido was here, he was never coming here. That's why they never came, because Kaido's order, and essentially you could add all that other mumbo jumbo around it. Dog was scared. Dog didn't want to throw hands against Kaido because he knew he would get wrecked. In fact, if you think about it, what happens in this chapter, Green Bull, I feel like it was out of desperation. They needed a new admiral, but clearly he isn't ready for this one. Like, going all the way back to when we seen the admirals, and even Marineford, when you saw the three of them, Kizaru, Akainu, and Aokiji sitting there, you knew that they're scary. You can't mess with them. Green Bull, he just feels like, you know, he's green behind the ears. Is it that how you say it? Wet behind the ears? He's basically green, so to speak, in terms of he's not ready for none of this. He's going in here, like he said before, uninformed on things. He was surprised by Momo. He talks a little crap in here about him being a childish kid. No, you're reflecting on talking about being childish, because look at what you've done. And Momo breaks it down to them why he doesn't want, in particular, people like Yamato and anybody that is not going to reside in Wano and wants to leave. Basically, don't touch this dude, because if we can't protect ourselves, then how can we expect to basically stand alone and do our thing and say that we're here and we're going to be able to protect this island on our own? So he's basically saying it on some, not necessarily even prideful shit, but it's just a reality. If you're going to be the savior, if you're going to be the hero of Wano, the guardian, so to speak, how can you rely on people that ultimately aren't going to be there? Granted, you could throw the argument that Shanks kind of, you know, defeated that. Obviously, he didn't want no interference, but nevertheless, with Shanks doing that, using his Conqueror's Haki, it kind of played into the whole thing of, yeah, Momo, you're still not quite ready, even though he did something epic and amazing, and I was happy that Momo, in just a few bouts, basically, he had the big bout against, don't get me wrong, that's a god right there, he fought against Kaido or whatnot, but now that he's able to start controlling that big fire breath, that dragon breath technique, yeah, now he might be a little bit more ready. And just imagine in a few years of training what he'll be capable of. He went from this little scared, almost looking like a damn worm, a pink worm, to he's now ferocious, and what he's saying, there's validity to it. Like, it's not going to just be you could walk over to Wano and slap people around. Now you have a force that could, at one given point, after a lot of training, rival that of an Odin or a Kaido. Momo right now, of course, he's just learning Dragon Breath, and it probably was a more effective technique because, hello, this dude is a big force. Even though realistically, earlier in the fight, they tried fire on him, and he was like, you don't think I would avoid and I would figure out a way around a weakness like that? So it was kind of like, I guess, almost showing that that technique that Momo uses is damn near stronger than people from the Scabbard. So if that doesn't even further cement that, yo, they have somebody here, they really have a new Odin, just this Odin needs more training, then nothing will. This shows that, yeah, what Momo is saying, there's validity to it. It just needs a little more time. He's not quite ready to be the hero, but he has the resolve. that's something that is important. He has the resolve to stand there and say, I don't want outside interference. Yamato clearly ain't staying here, so you're not supposed to put hands in this battle. Another example of why Green Bull is a walking L is Shanks is on his ship. He's not even on shore right now, and this Conqueror's Haki is enough that following that giant blast from Momo, Green Bull pretty much is immobile, so to speak. Shanks has him locked down with the Conqueror's Haki, which, you know, I've always thought, like, okay, Admiral's got to be on the same level as the Emperors. That's just something that should be the case, because at the end of the day, it's like, oh, it seems like they're supposed to be matched up, but clear as day, it's not the case. You could argue that, yo, he just took that big dragon breath, but dog, you just got blasted by an inexperienced dragon, and then a Conqueror's Haki is all it takes to get you to basically say, I don't want no problems, dog, don't hurt me. Like, I ain't gonna lie, dog, you bit off more than you can chew, and now you looking like a buffoon. And just imagine when he returns and Akainu hears of this, his newest admiral, you know, he's supposed to be cementing a new legacy, so to speak. This is one of his picks. This is no longer riding off the coattails of everything that Sengoku set in place. This is Akainu's era as fleet admiral, and this dude is running away and getting punked out by Shanks, saying, I don't want no problems, at least not today. Like, yeah, Akainu is going to chew him out, and God knows, he might even demote him. I think that would actually fit perfectly in his character of he's so desperate for power. He's so desperate to, you know, get recognition that it's going to drive him even further into being even more than what he already is, of being a piece of garbage. Like, if he's already on some other tip that, even worse than Akainu, at least Akainu has a little bit more respect than this dude. He doesn't, like, grovel at the feet of the celestial dragons. This dude in the last chapter was talking crazy about their gods and stuff like that. What is this going to do to him when Akainu hears about this and either demotes him or basically gives him a tongue lashing? This is going to even further drive this dude into madness and make him, I would argue, more of a threat, because now he's going to feel like even further that he has something to prove. And bro, seeing Shanks and the little bit of combo he had, the little dialogue of him saying, I ain't gonna call it cowardly, but wouldn't you say it's bad to attack people that are already weakened after a legendary battle? Like, yo, Shanks, it's very interesting, because then he goes into further saying, yo, what, are you that much scared of the new generation, so to speak? Like, that clearly shows that Shanks has some, even if it turns into the darkest of night when it comes to Shanks, even if his character does a complete 180 of going from this righteous dude, red hair Shanks, you know, the guy that inspired Luffy and all that stuff, even if it goes down a dark route, the way he said that with conviction leads me to believe that he does rock with the new generation. It just might be as simple as, but I'm gonna be Pirate King. Like, I love the new generation, but y'all under me. Or it could be more that he's a double, triple agent. There's so many ways that it could go, but that, at the very least, conversation right there led me, even with especially the Stonewall face of seriousness, that he does rock with the new gen. It ain't completely gonna be a mustache twirling, I'm Shanks and I'm evil. Like, there's gonna be more to it than just that if he does go down a dark path. And despite Momo's conviction, it is interesting as well to say that Luffy and them were watching the entire time. So if things really got out of control, Luffy and them would have jumped in, which makes sense. Like, dog, just because Luffy's injured, you're telling me that none of these goats that are on this island are going to be able to sense what the hell is going on with Green Bull attacking, Momo breathing fire breaths? Luffy allowing this is also demonstrating that Luffy understands the mission and understands what needs to be done. And at the end of the day, Luffy's been a big brother to Momo. He's been, from the beginning, he almost bullied him. And, you know, there's a fine line with bullying. It wasn't bullying in terms of like, you ain't never gonna be nothing, you a piece of garbage. He would basically tell him what he is. Like, yo, you a coward. Like, he told him so many times, you're a coward. And now that he's seen the seeds that he planted in Momo of, you're a coward, to no, he's brave enough and he even didn't want to get us involved. Like, you can see there's pride in his eyes of he respects what Momo did and what he was trying to accomplish. And even if it wasn't completely at Momo's hands protecting Wano, he stepped up to the plate. And I think Luffy respects that. And if you could get respect from Monkey D. Luffy, well, you already know it's One Piece. See, that's great. And the way the chapter ends with Luffy recognizing that Conqueror's Haki was from a familiar face, he understands that Shanks is there. I can't wait to see when they do run into each other. I don't know if Oda's gonna pull a Yoshihiro Togashi and do an accidental meet, or how it's going to play out. Is it gonna be dramatic and Luffy shows up as Shanks is killed or something? Their first meeting has to, in my opinion, not be a rescue thing. I mean, granted, it would be emotional, but I feel as though because Luffy is so, you know, notorious now, he's made it, he has staked his claim as, I'm going to be Pirate King in the most serious way possible. The next time they meet can't be that that Shanks shows up to save Luffy. Like, he didn't right there save Luffy. He just helped with the conviction of Momo. He didn't save Luffy. You could argue, yo, he helped out so that Luffy didn't have to jump into battle, but realistically, I don't even think that Green Bull would have been able to take them even being injured. If Conqueror's Haki and a blast from Momo is enough to make him basically walk away and say, I don't want no problems, yeah, I think that Luffy and them would have been able to handle him. But I'm very excited to see when they do cross paths, Luffy and Shanks. I mean, everybody is, right? And yeah, this chapter, a lot of layers to it. In my opinion, probably not as insane as the last chapter. I think the shock of returning with One Piece and stuff not necessarily has died down, but it still was freaking iconic. It was dope yet again. It's the cheat code. I'm going to call it the Shanks cheat code, that pretty much almost any chapter you put Shanks in, it's pretty much going to be a legendary chapter. It's going to be huge. And the fact that Shanks is now going to be more integral to things, like, dog, he hasn't done anything. He's standing on a ship angry. That's pretty much it. Like, yo, what are you doing over there, dog? You being a bitch. Like, that's all that he did, and it's already epic. Imagine now that he claimed that he's going to make his move and go after One Piece, how things are going to get. It's going to be marvelous, so to speak. And honestly, that One Piece greatness. Curious what you guys thought about this chapter. How did you feel about Green Bull taking that massive L? How do you think things is going to go with Pluton, the secret weapon? Is it that Odin pretty much felt that this is too dangerous to be under Wano, and when it activates, it could implode and destroy Wano as a whole? And your overall thoughts of just what went down. Where do you think we're going next? Like, that was honestly crazy because I did not expect for it to, again, I'm going to say this, not necessarily disappointed, but Green Bull, yeah, you're walking L for this one, fam. Of the week, you are definitely the L of the week, and I'm not talking about Death Note. Before we go on to the next segment, I'm gonna just keep it real. It feels like this is the best week of Shonen Jump manga for me, period. I'm not even gonna lie, and it's not just only Shonen Jump, there's the plus, because we will be talking about Chainsaw Man later on in this episode. But having the full roster, considering now that almost feels like a rarity, we don't get the full roster of anything anymore when it comes to Jump. We'll have either My Hero be absent, Black Clover was on a 3-month hiatus, One Piece was on, like, everything was on hiatus, and of course, you know, they get regular breaks. So to have the full roster, it's quite nice, to say the least. It actually got me really excited, and yeah, we're gonna keep on turning up, because baby, that manga greatness, that feeling, that passion, it's back and it's better than ever. Black Clover, baby, it's time. Black Clover has finally returned from the 3-month hiatus. Yuki Tabata is back with a bang, because holy cow, I asked this question over on Twitter, but I want to start off by this one. Considering the results of what went down in this chapter and Asta's love life, with his harem now seemingly dwindling down a little bit. We lost one. You lost one. They got them saying they made Asta say, okay, so make another Asta. Yeah, that was terrible. But either way, Black Clover is back. We get this color cover spread. The ones that will be the Wizard King, so to speak. We got Asta and Yuno. For the most part, Asta doesn't look that much different. Apparently, a year and 3 months has passed, so there's that. But he doesn't look radically different. Likewise with Yuno. I think for the most part, Tabata was like, let's give it a time skip, a fresh start again with the series. But he didn't really change too much. If anything, I feel like Asta looked a little toned down on the muscle, which I was a big fan of, you know, shorty with muscles, dog. Let's go. It don't matter about height, bro. I got them, you know what I'm saying? I got them pecs. I don't care. So I was like, okay, it still looked drippy as hell, but didn't have much muscle mass. It is what it is. And we start off very ominous. I was kind of surprised. Like, okay, we go from color page to very ominous. We're in the 7th layer of the underworld, and that's clearly Lucius Zogratis, and he's standing over Lucifero. So Lucifero isn't completely gone, and I don't know if he will have his revenge at some given point. He's clearly still there. He's seemingly pinned down by some sort of time spell by Lucius, and he's talking smack like, yo, I'm the strongest, I'm the king. But dog, first of all, you took the L, and then on top of that, the Zogratis got you there pinned down. Like, it don't matter no more, dog. You took the L, and I'm not gonna say that he's a walking L, because we already went through that debacle 3 months ago. But yeah, it was also nice that Tabata started off, for the most part, from where the last one left off, with something dark. I like that. Sometimes I don't always want the, hey, we ended off, you know, dark, and then we're gonna start off like, sometimes let's just cut to the chase. Let's cut to the chase and see what happened. And clearly Lucifero is still around. I don't know if Lucius is going to absorb him. Why keep him around other than you want to use him as some sort of battery to your own power or to your own plan? And I was kind of laughing to myself when Lucifero was like, I may have lost half my body, but I'm still the king of... No, you're not. No, you're not. I hate to break it to you, Lucifero, but you're not. You're done. You're done. And it was quite interesting to note that Lucius says this, because clearly, you know, if you're the Zogratis, you're the devil, yada yada, you would immediately be like, yo, devil supremacy or whatever. You would be more team, hey, we're evil, we're devils. But when he says in this world it is humans that have the strongest magic, wield the strongest magic, are the strongest at magic, it makes me think, so is it that he can't completely abandon that side of himself? Because remember, it was initially just like an evil family, so to speak, that summoned devils and whatnot. So that kind of made me question, okay, just how far are we going with this in terms of the identity of this person? Like, it feels like the Julius that we know probably isn't going to be completely gone, and I'm going to throw my hat in there as I'm not fond of this idea, but I think where Tabata is going to go with it in the end is Julius, either before the death of Lucius or during it or whatever, Julius will return. Like, I don't think that Julius is going to be completely scrapped from here on forward. It could be that it's a last ditch effort and Julius takes over and takes the L so that way they could move on, but I have no doubt in my mind that Julius will return at some given point or another, whether it be internal struggles with, you know, Lucius, whatever it is, Julius is probably still somewhere in there because that persona was too strong. That persona was a very righteous person, so to speak, and you can't completely wipe that out. It's almost like an internal struggle. Think like My Hero Academia, Shigaraki All for One type of situation. And then we cut from that to 1 year and 3 months after the defeat of the Spade Nation. We're having an award ceremony, a big ceremony for Asta, and that's so freaking dope considering we went from, what was it, 3 years ago now that the first chapter appeared of Damnatio trying to put Asta in prison and he was basically sent off to exile and whatnot. To go from that to him getting awards and promoted and stuff like that, it shows progress. It shows that, yeah, we are in the final stretch, baby. And he gets the title of Senior Magic Knight First Class, and I felt like it's a good title. At the end of the day, it's not like they're gonna replace Yami. Like, if Yami would have died in the previous war against the Devils in Spade, then Asta clearly would have taken the role, but considering the fact that, yeah, Yami's still there, you can only go so far. Honestly, in order for Asta to obtain that role as the captain of his crew, and then of course to Wizard King, essentially either Yami would have to be removed from the role, Yami would have to step down, or Asta would have to get a whole other team, and I don't think that's going to happen. Like, realistically, I don't think we're going to see Asta become a captain in the series period. I think we're going to go from this title that they just gave him, and then kind of like Naruto. Well, Naruto actually went from Genin to Hokage. We never seen him go Chunin or Jonin. He just jumped ranks. At the very least, we've seen progression with Asta going, and I'm not trying to shit on Naruto. You already know how I feel about that series, but we've seen progression. We've seen actual uppings in his rankings. We've seen him slowly but surely crawl his way from them being negative a bajillion stars to senior, what is it, senior magic? Like, either way, he got a role now that is a lot higher than where he's been, and he's a couple steps closer. But again, I'm going to throw my money in. We're not going to see captain of the Black Bulls or anything like that, Asta, until either the very, very end, or it just won't happen. We're going to cut straight from that to him having a battle with Yuno and seeing who's going to be the Wizard King, but Asta probably won't get that role. And it's kind of similar to the Naruto and Gaara situation, where Naruto had to see Gaara become, you know, the Kazekage, and he stood as, you know, a Genin, which, again, it's a lot, I don't know. I feel like Black Clover took that situation and did it slightly better. I'm going to just keep it real. I feel like it did it slightly better because we've seen somewhat progression. It wasn't in filler or anything like that. We legitimately see Asta rise through the ranks, and even though Yuno is still above him, and he clearly says in the chapter that he's frustrated by it, we see him making moves, especially heading into the finale. Also, something major to note is the fact that nobody's really, I guess, in the know of what happened to Damnatio, because the reason this whole ceremony and everything that happened was postponed, the hearing, the trial, was that Damnatio disappeared. They don't know what happened. So for a year and 3 months after obtaining his original memory, so to speak, and understanding who he truly is, the Clover Kingdom has been under the thumb of the Zogratis. Like, it's kind of crazy that, did we really win? Did we really win the previous war, or was it a hollow victory in a battle of a long war to come? Like, not necessarily long, because I don't know how long Black Clover is going to go. In fact, I have a sneaking suspicion, I'm scared of it, but a sneaking suspicion that Black Clover will probably end next year with the big announcement of the movie. The movie will tie in and be the finale of Black Clover. That's just my, I know people are like, no, why are you talking about the ending of Black Clover? Like, I foresee see that being the case. Granted, I feel like we could go 2 more years at the very least, but you know Black Clover, you know that at the end of the day it goes real quick. On top of that, Tabata has no restraints any further, and from his message even at the beginning of this about the harsh conditions of weekly serialization, I'm pretty sure that we're gonna go full throttle, and we might even end it this year. And here's something that probably nobody has said, but I'm gonna say it because they're basically complimenting Asta. They're like, yo, you're a few steps away, dog, from your dreams, and that's all fine and dandy. But it's this statement of Asta's that kind of ticked me off a little bit, because he says basically, I'm just happy to be acknowledged by the captains. And that rubbed me the wrong way, considering the fact that Black Clover, the entire struggle of Asta's, who cares about any of them? I'm gonna do it. You think I care about what they got to say? When Nozelle's family was basically constantly bullying and harassing and doing all that messed up stuff and whatnot, he never really cared about acknowledgement. He wasn't looking for that. In fact, I almost don't like that if they have a boys club, if they have a you will never be involved, you will never get up here, for you to climb the ranks to where you're at right now with your own 2 hands, and then finally, you know, you get to a point where you've upped in ranks and whatnot, for you to say, I'm just happy to be acknowledged by the same people that pretty much shitted on you when you were down low, and now because you did some insane feats, they want to, you know, give you a little hand clap. I don't like it. I didn't dig it at all. If anything, Asta should have said something, which it's clearly out of character, and at the end of the day, he's still somewhat a kid, even though we have a really cool thing. I love the fact that he aged up in this chapter, but ultimately I was like, he should have just said, yeah, bet. You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously they're not going to use that particular phrasing, but I don't like that he's like, yeah, I'm just happy to be acknowledged. Like, no, you could take out probably majority of people in this room. Even, I believe it was Fuegoleon that says, like, pretty much the same rank that Yuno has, you realistically could have that as well. Like, it rubbed me the wrong way. I'm sorry. Also, which made the most sense, I mean, most fans called it, pretty much the discussion of the next Wizard King was up for debate with Nozelle, Fuegoleon, and Mario Leona. Off rip, as soon as I saw Mario Leona's name, I was like, oh, she's never taking that. She don't want that job. She likes to have fights and stuff like that. This isn't like a Naruto where Tsunade was like, oh, begrudgingly I'll take it, because remember, Tsunade didn't want the role of Hokage either. She wanted to go gamble and drink and chill out and whatnot. So I knew Mario Leona wouldn't take it. Fuegoleon, he's basically saying, yeah, I still got much to do. And Nozelle, I felt like Nozelle probably been the most obvious candidate, but it almost looks like Tabata's gonna jump straight from, hey, you know, we got Julius and some contenders to take the role, and it's probably going to go straight from Julius to Asta, considering the fact that Asta is technically no longer a boy because he is 18 years old now in this chapter. They might just say, screw it, we get one more time skip at the very end, and Asta's the new Wizard King. After Julius falls, after they defeat him, it'll probably be Asta, so we might not get a Nozelle the Wizard King or Fuegoleon. It might jump straight to Asta, which that'll be interesting as well. Again, taking different steps from the predecessors. There's a lot of, you know, pieces that is like set up from previous shonen, but opposed to, there was Tsunade, then there was Kakashi, then no, we're gonna probably go straight from Julius to Asta, or they might have one intermediate. Maybe there'll be a big time skip where for a bit of time Nozelle runs it, but I wouldn't be surprised Tabata's gonna be like, nah, it's gonna go straight to either Asta or Yuno, but let's be real, and that's a whole different debate for another time, but it's gonna be Asta. Yuno will probably be the king, or he'll probably go to Spade, considering, dog, you're pretty much the freaking Wizard King of Spade anyway. And it's clear that throughout all of this, I mean, for starters, we see at the very beginning Lucifero being pinned down by him, and now there's demonic activity that still surrounds the borders of the Clover Kingdom, and Yuno with the Golden Dawns, as well as the rest of the Black Bull members, which I was kind of like, yo, why we haven't seen them, which is probably Tabata setting up for re-grand entrance of all of them later on down the road. They went to go check it out, what's going on, and again, probably Lucius is setting up for, I don't know, turning the entire Clover Kingdom into a demon kingdom. If he's doing all of this, if there's surroundings around the border, if he has Lucifero tied down, it might not be the end of the gates to Demon World. He might actually have another play of, nah, we opening this bitch, depending on what Lucius is really after. Like, he's not Lucifero. Lucifero was on some other level. He might have a whole other plan of, maybe he wants to turn everybody in the Clover Kingdom to devils. Think about it. If he says that humans are the ones that wield the strongest magic, he might say, well, I don't want people with strongest magic around me. I'm going to turn everyone into devils. And was it just me, or like I've been saying, Tabata was cooking with this return chapter, dog, because then we jump into the Yami X Charlotte situation. Y'all already know it's been kind of back and forth. At the end of the day, Yami, he's, as I've always said, the retired shonen MC, and he still has some traits of that shonen MC that even up until this point, a year and 3 months later, he still didn't understand Charlotte's feelings for him. And Finral's like, dog, I'm gonna play matchmaker here. I'm playboy of the century. Let me teach you a little game. That's crazy that one of his underlings has to tell him, like, yo, she confessed to you. I don't know what's going on with y'all, but she got it in for you, dog. She got the thing for you. You know what I'm saying? She wants a little bit of that dark magic. And Yami continues to go to the almighty throne in order to understand these feelings that Charlotte has for him to analyze. Like, a king has to go to his throne, and Yami's throne is the toilets, bro. I love it. I love it. Classic Yami. I ain't gonna lie, you get a couple of good ideas and thoughts while you're... No, let me stop. It's getting too gross. But again, addressing something and pushing it even forward, because now that Yami isn't going to be naive to Charlotte's feelings, I'd imagine the next time around they're together, Yami's gonna be like, hey, let's go explore a little bit. I think Yami is going to be able to, after he understands his own feelings, probably either reciprocate them, or he'll just do some baboon dumbass shit and it'll continue on. I hope that's not the case, because something that in a recent interview Eiichiro Oda, creator of One Piece, said is that Jump likes to differentiate, and there's almost an unwritten rule of no romance within battles, although it's the final arc, and we've seen in Naruto, we've seen in a couple series Bleach, that at the end all bets are off and you can do the relationship thing. So I'm imagining by the end, there's no doubt in my mind that Yami and Charlotte are going to get together, and I would love to see them have a kid. Just imagine the hacks powers of having Yami and Charlotte together, what type of kid they could make. And Yami as a father would be hilarious, because he's already a dope father. He's a little bit, again, shonen MC, a little immature, think Gintoki or whatnot from Gintama, but nevertheless, I would love to see him as a father. He's been a great father figure to everyone in the Black Bulls. He'd be a good father. So yeah, I'm calling it already. It's clear as day. We're going to get that big moment probably within the next big battles of Yami saying, yo, Toots, come over here. And then we cut to another thing where Tabata was like, yo, Jump, I get it, no romance, all that stuff, y'all move aside, because Asta's like, today's the day, and Nero drops the bomb to Mimosa and Noel. Oh yeah, he's gonna confess. And they're like, confess to who? Which I'm glad that Tabata has kind of solidified, in my opinion, and if I'm wrong on this, please let me know, but I felt like he solidified that the main pairings that could go down is either Asta Noel or Asta Mimosa. But I see it as this: Mimosa is Hinata, Noel is Sakura from Naruto. In this version of the story, though, he's not gonna go with Hinata. I don't think it's gonna be Mimosa x Asta. I'm sorry for those fans, don't get me wrong, Mimosa's a great pick, she's a healer, all of that good stuff. It's gonna be Asta Noel. I have no doubt in my mind that that's going to be the case, because it's been hinted so much, and at the end of the day, Noel does deserve it. Noel has put in work. We've seen that Noel's beast in and of her own right. And pretty much Asta shows up to Sister Lily and is like, yo, I'm 18 now, I'm not a boy anymore, basically, will you be mine? And I felt for homie. I felt for homie that he got even worse than the friend zone, because there's the friend zone where it's like, but you know, I just look at you like a friend, and somewhere in a man's mind he thinks maybe that could change over time, who knows, anything is possible. But she hit him with something a lot harder than that, and the way he reacted to it was great, very upstanding, because she's basically like, I look at you like a little brother. And oh my god, as somebody that has been hit with that in my younger days, I felt the pain. But being realistic, dog, first of all, she's a nun. Like, yo, Asta, you gotta quite get that through your mind, unless you want her to leave her nunnery behind. Like, she's a nun. Like, there's nothing you could do with that, dog. I'm sorry, it's like a mermaid. But essentially, yeah, she turns him down, which clearly proves that it's now down to, obviously there's other members of the quote-unquote harem. Some people think maybe Nero. I'd imagine there's a few out there that are like, yo, but what about Sally? But it's gonna be Asta Noel. I have no doubt in my mind. Yami, Charlotte, Asta Noel, Mimosa Yuno, like, yay, nay, what do y'all think? Mimosa Yuno, I think that'd be a good pairing. They're both Golden Dawn, and at the end of the day, she's shown respect for him. She looks at him as he's admirable. Probably that'll be the case, although I could imagine they might not even couple up. I don't think this is not going to be, in my opinion, like Fairy Tail where everyone gets coupled up. We might have the couple of them, but yeah, or who knows, it'll be a haymaker, and next thing you know, Mimosa x Magna or some shit. That would be insane. But Asta hits one more time with that, alright, there's some people's feelings you just can't change, but I'm not gonna stop my resolve to be the Wizard King. And something with Sister Lily, it kind of reminded me of Deku with his mom, because Deku's mom, if you remember in My Hero Academia, she pretty much, when he needed that encouragement of you can be a hero without a quirk, didn't give it to him at that particular point. Later on down the road, she started to become a believer, and Sister Lily's like, I never told him this before because I couldn't, but She's like, yeah, I believe you're gonna be able to do it. And it's like, it sucks that sometimes you gotta go through a living hell for people to actually believe in you and believe in your dreams. Yeah, but it is what it is, and ultimately that situation is now officially closed. It will never happen, and I always thought that was the case. I'm gonna keep it real. I know there was times where maybe we thought maybe, possibly, but you're in the little bro zone, and family zone is yeah, pack it up, boys. And the chapter ends off in the most iconic way, like Tabata just gave us a perfect chapter. Lucius Zogratis shows up, or Julius, I don't know what he's gonna be running by at this point. Clearly his hair is black, so he probably ain't hiding it anymore. He's like congratulating Asta for making it this far, but this is the end. Now it could be played a couple different ways. He could play that, oh, it's me, Julius, I got my big adult form back, but yeah, I can't really change my hair color anymore. So he could still play it as he's Julius, or he could have shown up as a messenger of death of, no, this is the end of the road, because yeah, I'm the god right here, fam. So Tabata just gave us a perfect chapter to return, addressed so many points, locked up some things, kind of gave us answers that we needed, and rose more questions, and it's that Black Clover greatness. Curious what you guys think, dog. For starters, Asta's harem, who is it? I mean, is it clear as day like it is to me, Asta Noel, or you think Mimosa still has a chance, or Sally's, you know? Your thoughts on the Yami Charlotte situation? I mean, I feel like that one is kind of almost wrapped up too. Now that Yami understands, I think Yami's gonna go for it as well. The shonen MC within him is finally being broken. And your thoughts on the next move of Lucius Zogratis now that he has arrived and it's about to get real. Because it's about to get real. Okay, so if I'm keeping it real, I don't know how the other manga are gonna be able to stack up to what we got thus far in this episode, because One Piece, fire. Black Clover, after 3 months, you know the boy Tabata was cooking and brought us absolute fire. And then next up, we've got something that has been having a bad rep, but I think a lot of people are under the impression that this series is still moving the way it's been moving, because in my opinion, My Hero Academia, with chapters 360 and 361, are just demonstrations of, despite them being shorter chapters, which hopefully Horikoshi is in better health, because if he's doing these short chapters, I'd imagine maybe he's having, I don't want to say health complications, but something is wrong, right? But definitely those chapters demonstrated, first of all, that the series feels like it's moving better. Even with shorter chapters, it feels like it's moving better. 360 was a big self-revelation moment for Bakugo. Granted, you could argue that he's had some of these bouts beforehand, essentially internal, I don't want to say jealousy, but damn, pretty much seeing that he doesn't measure up to Deku. And ultimately with 361, it kind of clarifies a little bit more of, yo, Bakugo is completely out of his league when you look at Shigaraki. But definitely something to note with 360 is that this could go a few different ways, with Bakugo basically getting his arm ripped off and essentially Shigaraki talking smack that, yo, you're nowhere close to, like, you're always going to be a sidebar to Deku. You are essentially like a small fry and almost a Klingon, so to speak, to the legend of One for All. You're nothing. And Bakugo being broken there, even Best Gina is going to him and trying to calm him down and clear him up. There's going to be a couple of ways it could go. It could be that Bakugo awakens his quirk and absolutely beasts, or it could be that if we go into another, you know, time skip and My Hero Academia continues on in a different form, that Bakugo is going to start moving in a different fashion. He could feel like, yo, I'm broken, I'm not a real hero, I don't want to be a hero, I'm gonna be a vigilante. So this could maneuver a few different ways for Bakugo's character. Let me know what you think is gonna go down with him, because he looked completely broken and defeated. Shigaraki's words, or Shimura, we'll get into that in a second, his words stung very deeply, because this is something of an inferiority complex that Bakugo has had for a very long time. So somebody yet again showing him that, for starters, you're nowhere close to the level you think you are, and on top of that, downing him and saying you're a small fry compared to the dude that you think is your rival. He ain't your rival, you ain't shit. But whatever way the pendulum swings, I feel like this is going to change Bakugo. It could be that within the war he comes and he's with a smile and he's like, I know what role I must play, but this is going to change Bakugo. He was too damaged and too destroyed, and I'm not talking about the arm situation, I'm talking about internally, for this to just be a fly-by-night thing. This might be what changes Bakugo's character forever, or he awakens some insane explosive power. He'll call himself Explosion God to the max or something. But then with 361, as short of a chapter as it was, because again it was only 11 pages, Meteo's taunting, which, oh my god, it's almost karma in a way if you think about it for Shigaraki. The fact that his words destroyed Bakugo as a person, Meteo's words unlock something within him of, hey dog, you ain't got no friends, you forever alone, fam. Because in the last chapter, I believe Meteo had told Shigaraki, hey, the reason why you're like this is because you've had no friends. And he kind of has a mental breakdown, which it's safe to say for the most part, right, that Shigaraki is beyond just mentally distraught. Like, he's pretty much crazy for the most part, because he starts thinking back to his childhood prior to everything that happened with All for One, which granted you also got to take into account that ideally at this point this should all be All for One. Like the completion of his, you know, essentially ascent into Shigaraki's body is there. He even goes on into the chapter and saying that, hey, you know, his body is complete, but there's still something lingering in there. And Medio probably stopped even more so of the full takeover of All for One onto Shigaraki's body. And I'm gonna just keep it real. I hope that this Shimura thing of him being completely fused at this point, he's no longer Tomura, he's no longer All for One, he is now Shimura. I still hope that that's temporary. I still like the idea of Shigaraki being the essential, you know, main villain on his own. He did everything on his own. Like, I'm gonna give you guys a scenario of how I feel, and I want you to tell me how you would feel about this. Imagine if All Might and Deku fused, and moving forward he was one for Deku. Like, that would be something you'd be like, yo, we just went through a whole entire journey only for him to feel like I gotta be with All Might, or for the story to merge him and All Might. It would be terrible. It would be absolutely horrible. And that's how I feel from the villain side of things. I'm somebody that really appreciates the villains and everything that they've been set up with in My Hero Academia. So to see it be essentially just like, hey, he's Shimura now, I'm still not that fond of it. I think it's dope that, hey, okay, the completion is finally here to a certain degree, but part of me feels like that Shigaraki fighting for no. Like, even when he has that breakdown and starts screaming at Medio, which he sounded again nuts when he's like, no, this kid is gonna play with me and stuff like that. That's him having a mental breakdown from his childhood. It's almost as if Medio is in a way a therapist that unlocks some memories or something real weird. And when he said, I have real friends personally, and I think if Shigaraki was in his right mind, and well, his right mind would be before all this, but I'm talking about if it was just Shigaraki, I think he possibly could have come to the conclusion of, no, I have real friends in the League of Villains. Like, the League of Villains is Shigaraki's real friends that actually really rode for him. They're the ones that really want to see him accomplish his dreams, from Spinner, all of them for the most part, despite the fact that they have their own separate issues that they're trying to deal with and accomplish their goals or whatnot. They still all support him and ride for him as not only comrades, but as friends. So I think that if Shigaraki would analyze the situation, he didn't need to have a mental breakdown, but clearly he's mentally distraught, and, you know, the creation that he's become with All for One, it kind of signifies that, yeah, he's completely off his rocker, because if anything, dog, your friends have been with you pretty much this whole journey, the League of Villains. And it's kind of a duality of Bakugo's self-realization from words, almost as if the idea of, hey, words can hurt more than a fist, because, yo, Bakugo got his arm ripped off and Shigaraki's getting pierced and all sorts of stuff, but those aren't the things that bother them the most. The things that bother them is these internal conflicts, these almost shortcomings that they feel they have in comparison to other people. Like Bakugo's is, I feel like I'm not as good as Deku, and this guy just almost reaffirmed it in my mind. And Shigaraki's is, I'm so alone, and this guy just reaffirmed it, that I really am alone. Even though there's two people within this vessel, Shigaraki still feels more alone than ever, on top of the fact that his identity has been stripped from him as well. And Medio's reaction to that, like, because essentially you awoke an even further transformation with him, which that could very well be the flip side of it with Bakugo, now that I think about it. If this awoke something in Shigaraki that now he has completely assimilated to becoming Shimura, two holes in one, then Bakugo might awaken his quirk and say, no, I am the explosion god. I am above just one for all. One for all, nothing to me. I am that god. I am better, and I'm going to show you why with this awakened quirk. It's almost as if the mental trauma is pulling a Super Saiyan type of transformation for them. And I love how Shimura is basically like, yo, I don't even want this battle with you, Medio. You just stalling for time, dog. Like, get out of here with that, which, granted, he was legit. And the end of the chapter, them kind of, I don't want to say wedging in the big three, because I'm still like, hey, Medio, what was you doing this whole time that you just now arrived? But it kind of felt like it was giving more of a moment for them, despite the fact that, in my opinion, Shimura should be completely untouchable. You have the god of gods, and I'm still going to say it's so unfair, and as a fan of the villains, I am hurt, and I feel it is wrong that he's getting jumped like this, though. He's getting jumped, and if he had his power, if he had access to all his powers, this would be over in seconds. So they could, you know, Medio could cheer on and say, hey, you know, you're the only one, Tamaki, that can actually do damage, and Hato is having her self-realizations of friends, which it was kind of classic Shonen Jump of, hey, it's your friends that'll get you through it all. Now that I think about it, that was pretty much the entire theme of this chapter. The fact that Shigaraki has no friends is what makes him somewhat inferior, so to speak, to the heroes, because they all have each other, so they could work in unison. If Shigaraki and All for One were friends, for example, it would probably be a different story, because then Hato reflects on her past of how basically she was shunned and looked at as a snob for having this quirk, and, oh, you know, you think you're great because you have such a powerful quirk, and it was Tamaki and them, you know, talking to her and bringing her into the fold of friendship that kind of allowed her to embrace that, no, I am strong and that's okay, and I'm gonna open up and I'm gonna have friends. And the end of the chapter with Tamaki basically being the only one that can seemingly injure Shimura, I'm calling cap. And it might be a little bit of a damage or anything like that, but I'm calling cap that you gonna do squat to the boy. Like, even though it's not completely my guy, it's not completely Tomura, all for shitbag is in there, I'm still gonna call cap that you doing anything to my dude, because the second either of these little riffraff motherfuckers blink, Shimura is godlike, and that's it, and it's over. And I'm still gonna say, I know a lot of people disagree with me in my last one, but Deku's the only one that could probably throw hands, and I'm gonna call it that. Full power, without any restrictions, Shimura's bodying him like that. Because yes, Deku has the predecessor's quirks, but realistically, all of them, their quirks on their own weren't all that much. It's even been said. And while Deku may have been mastering it, and still as a combined strength, it might be something, I'm still gonna call cap that anybody on this field has anything above Shimura when he's at full power. And even Deku, I'm not even gonna say he would have a problem. I'm still gonna say that I feel like Deku, without some type of, I don't know, distributing one for all to like everybody in class 1A, is gonna take a L. Oh my god, is that gonna happen? Do you think that that's gonna be what Horikoshi's resolve is for the class 1A to all of them? Like, similar to how Naruto gave everybody a Rasengan at one given point during the war, he's gonna distribute one for all, instead of it being like movie 2 where he just gave it a Bakugo. Everybody in class 1A is going to have a shot at using one for all, and they're all in unison going to attack Shimura, and that'll be the end of him. Ooh, that feels so campy. And I don't know, I love the dark nature of what My Hero Academia does. So when it gets into the campy stuff, I get it, that's always been the flip side of the coin of this series, but yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about that? And your overall thoughts of this short chapter? Again, 11 pages, gave a couple of different moments. I felt it was just reinforcing a whole friendship type of scenario, which, friendship, we get it. Okay, so y'all know me. If you don't, I love me some Maki. So anytime there's a Maki chapter in Jujutsu Kaisen, I'm on it. This one, chapter 192, it felt like it went really quick. I'm not even gonna lie. It was very battle-centric. It started off with giving a reminder that people like me, because a lot of people called me out like, you read these chapters blind, what the hell? But it gave us a very clear reminder of what happens to people that are killed, and it's not done with Jujutsu. Essentially, that's what Naoya is. The fact that he was killed by that knife, and he wasn't killed at the hands of Jujutsu. He turned into a curse, and yeah, so my whole theory of, no, Naoya's still alive and he's gone crazy, it would have been interesting, but clearly I missed out, and I appreciate the author reminding us, like, yo, dog, I get it. A lot of people can understand everything clearly, but considering the fact that Jujutsu Kaisen at times gets super complex, I might miss a thing or two. I'm human. And I know that's still not going to be enough for some people. Some people are going to be like, we don't care. You messed up. But I was grateful to get that flashback between Kamo and Gakuganji to kind of remind us, like, okay, this is, you know, setting the stage, so to speak, of what Naoya is. And for the most part, a lot of this chapter was, hey, Naoya is going in. Maki can't really do much because obviously she doesn't have any cursed energy. And it was kind of, shout outs to Kamo. He actually did his thing. I'm still not fond of the hair, but shout outs to Kamo, because it was pretty much him putting in the work and shooting those arrows that was capable of even doing anything against Naoya. Granted, Maki was tossing him around, but it's a whole different ball game now. And it also shows the weaknesses of Maki, despite the fact I'm not too fond of it, but hey, it is what it is, that they said, yo, she's a monster. So I'm thinking, yo, you're a monster. You should be able to devour anything in your path, not be completely broken. And I think we might actually see that. So let me not act like the fight is completely over, but seeing her being pinned against the wall by Naoya and him kind of being all menacing, with shout outs to Gege on that art. Oh my god, that one panel where Naoya is right there with his eyes bugged out and shit, I was like, ooh, that looks real nasty, but incredible art. And also the fact that it needs to be done with Jujutsu for Naoya to fall. It's clearly, even though Noritoshi pretty much took the massive L during this chapter, ultimately it's going to have to be a combined attack to take Naoya out. Naoya isn't going to be able to be taken down in a mere flash. This is going to have to be a combined attack. So the monster and somebody that probably at one given point would have been the head of his household, even though his household has been overtaken by this monstrosity known as Kenjaku, they're gonna have to do it together. And I felt like what I got from this chapter, and don't quote me on this, the fact that he was essentially turning into a cursed womb, and he was pretty much evolving so to speak. You could argue it's like metaphoric of, hey, a butterfly from a caterpillar to a butterfly, right? Like pretty much that was the form that he took as well. But essentially it was almost as if a failed, I can't even say the word. I don't think, can I say the word without getting flagged? But you know what happens when somebody doesn't want a child that they're bearing? That pretty much was the case of what happened there, or a failed attempt at it at the very least, when Noritoshi shoots that freaking giant arrow through him as he's about to evolve. It was like stopping the cocoon before the moth or before the butterfly can appear. And also, again, I gotta compliment the art with that piercing bloodshot. That was brutal. However, that was clearly not enough, because first of all, it looks like Noritoshi is probably going to be massively injured, because following the failed attempt at ending him, yeah, Noritoshi is gonna be down. And I love the trash talking that Naoya, even as a curse, he's probably even more wicked than he was beforehand. And he's like, yo, read the room, dog, I'm a god here, and refers to them as trash in classic Naoya fashion. Very simple chapter for the most part. Battle chapter, gave a little bit more clarification on things as to exactly what Naoya is, but nevertheless it was just straightforward. And I'm gonna say that Maki can't do this one by herself. The fact that you need to kill with a cursed attack, probably Maki's going to have help from Noritoshi. He's gonna get back at some given point, and they're gonna have to do a combined attack. Personally, I want Maki to go nuts. I want Maki to go full blown, the monster that she's become, and eradicate this dude like if he doesn't even matter. Because you gotta remember also, she got that whole vengeance thing on her mind, and it's like, one of my clan's members survived and I was trying to do the Uchiha massacre, gotta get them too, dog. So setting up for an even further big battle. But yeah, simple chapter, and it was not the greatest in the world, but for me it's always a great chapter when it comes to having Maki involved in a badass way, and this was a badass way. It's like Maki is still human at the end of the day, like a monster but physically human, and we're gonna have to see how it goes. And I'm just glad that, again, we got a little bit more clarification for those, not only myself, that were a little bit lost as to what the hell happened with Naoya. It happens. Read the room, fam. He's evolved. Chainsaw Man fans, I just gotta keep it a buck with you. I love Chainsaw Man like the next man, and this revival, the first couple chapters was dope, but the third chapter of its return, aka Chainsaw Man 100, I guess it's weird. Like, do we call it Chainsaw Man? Like, it's bizarre to call it Chainsaw Man 2, but chapter 100. I'm just gonna stick with calling it Chainsaw Man chapter 100. Adding the 2 just makes it a little bit more confusing for people that are like, wait, so there's 100 chapters of this part 2? It's Chainsaw Man chapter 100, and for the most part, very symbolic, slow-paced build-up and setup. Fujimoto is setting things up for the grand return, little by little, piece by piece, clearly indicating that Asamitaka is going to be a major factor. I don't know if we're going to go full forward that from now on the narrative is going to be from Asamitaka and the War Devil, because I'd imagine a lot of people after a certain point are going to be like, wait, so this is like what they're doing with the new Grand Theft Auto? Like, I like Asamitaka and the War Devil and the duality of it, the Tokyo Ghoul-esque feel that we're getting with it, but I'm gonna keep it real. I want to see my boy Denji, and I think we are seeing him. I'm gonna be honest with you, because we see in this chapter, for the most part, we got that she's in that club, and we got the introduction to that character Yuko and Yoshida, and they're both fans of Chainsaw Man. Yuko's a big fan, and I'm gonna call it that. Yuko is Denji undercover. That's Denji right there. I'm gonna just say it. I think we already have seen Denji, and he's just using that disguise for X, Y, and Z. Maybe while he's at school, his best defense so that people don't catch on that he's the Chainsaw Man is, no, I'm Yuko. But there was more symbolism to it, right? Because first of all, there's an internal conflict, a split, so to speak, with Asamitaka of Asa, and then the War Devil that, you know, is pretty much inhabiting her body. And the whole one shoe, first of all, not having any shoes, and then having one shoe, and by the end having both shoes, is symbolic of, for starters, again, what she's going through internally. Also, having friends, I guess you could throw the argument there of like, yo, I felt completely alone. Obviously, she don't even want to be in here. She's not even a big Chainsaw Man fan. She don't really care about none of this. It's that she's under duress thanks to the War Devil. So she's alone, so to speak, or feeling that way. And when she's walking home barefooted after she basically bailed on the whole situation, because yeah, dog, that whole little commentary on bullying, the fact of the girls that are talking behind her back over the whole Bucky situation, like, oh, she's trying to get a boyfriend, and after all that just happened, and then putting those meat pieces in her locker, I feel real bad for Asa. Like, those are little small things that shouldn't go unnoticed of, yo, dog, this is building her character. She's being bullied. She's pretty much at her lowest of low. Now imagine if Asamitaka starts to, in her right mind, not just the War Devil, in her right mind, decides, yo, I'm gonna go with war. I think it's a good saying, considering the fact that everybody abandoned her. She's being bullied and whatnot. She don't even want to be in this situation. She might fall into despair and go along with the war devil and not be apprehensive and running after and all of that other stuff. And then we got the small bit of Yuko walking or running away with the one shoe on each other. Again, it's being like, you know, you're half, so to speak, of yourself, and that's what Asa was. By the end, Yuko giving the second shoe and saying, yo, sell it or throw it out, do whatever you want, but there you go, you have two shoes now. It's kind of being whole, so to speak, and symbolic to a certain degree, although I think Asa has a long way to go from being whole, because yo, she's still completely conflicted, like kind of puzzled as to, what, you gave me your shoes? Like, and even the war devil saying, we selling these, let's go. So very simple chapter. Again, I want to say that it was stressing who she is as a character, a build-up chapter. I'm just gonna say it though, like, I want more of the Chainsaw Man that I know and love. I want more of the crude humor. I want all of the insanity, and we're in the build-up phase, so it's completely understandable. I'm not criticizing like, yo, we need to understand who this character is, but I'm just wondering, are we completely deviating from the story that was set up with Chainsaw Man 1 of Denji being the MC? Like, granted, considering Chainsaw Man is continuing on and they're saying chapter 98, 99, 100, it's not saying that like, yo, this is a brand new Chainsaw Man. It could just be that we're possibly seeing what's going to be the main villain of Chainsaw Man 2 with Asamitaka, because the moment she accepts the war devil and decides, yeah, I think this is the path I'm gonna walk on, boom, we have the next big threat, and we got them built up in the beginning of this manga, so we're getting the other side of it. I like where Shonen Manga is starting to showcase that we're getting the buildup of the villain, and not just like we're seeing the journey of the hero, only a hero's journey, and hey, that's the villain at the end of the road. No, we're actually getting buildup from what, again, potentially, if Asa decides to go that route and fully embraces her war devil, so to speak, we're seeing the buildup of a villain of being bullied, being tortured, and while there's outside people like Yuko, for example, which again, I'm calling it as Denji in a disguise, you know, trying to say, hey, you can be yourself, here you go, you're not alone. Ultimately, I feel like Asa might succumb, and this is going to be the beginnings of the new Makima, so to speak. A lot of us probably thought that it was going to be, you know, the little girl, the reincarnation, Nayuta. Probably Asa is going to be the Makima, and opposed to having her built up in a different light, we're seeing her first before we return to the Chainsaw Man that we know and love, with Denji being the MC and all of that stuff. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, that's what I'm going to go with, and I imagine it's only a matter of time. I expect by chapter 10, the latest, which that seems way off, I'm going to say even maybe 5 or 6, we're going to see the return of Denji. He's going to explode out of those clothes of Yuko, the disguise, and go in. Also, at the very least, we know that everybody's not completely abandoned, because we do have Yoshida in the fray, and things is about to get interesting, but a slower chapter. Definitely not my preferred type of chapter, but necessary to building up who this character is going to be and their relevance and importance to the story. Asamitaka, the new war devil. Okay, people, now we're at the end of the show where we're going to talk best chapter of the week, because we started this off, I asked you the question, hey, what do you guys think is the best chapter of, you know, of everything that we cover? We got 5 manga. Ideally, we're gonna do the 5 manga within this show of Jujutsu Kaisen, One Piece, My Hero, Black Clover, and Chainsaw Man. Clearly, that's not going to be the case every week. Some manga take breaks and whatnot. We'll cross those roads when we get to them, but as it stands right now, I'm going to keep it real. For me personally, the best chapters in order, it would be like a tie with Black Clover slightly being above One Piece, because, dog, we came back from a 3-month hiatus and we addressed relationships. We addressed, you know, evolution and Asta's ranking. There was a lot that was addressed in this chapter of Black Clover. So I'm going to say Black Clover, with One Piece being right freaking neck and neck. I know the polls, which, yo, speak up. If you feel like the polls are rigged because One Piece has been winning a lot every time pretty much One Piece is involved, it wins, go vote over there. Go drop your comments over here. Let me know why. If you don't think it's One Piece, or if you do think it's One Piece, if you think it's My Hero, whatever it is, let me know right there. But for me, it's Black Clover, One Piece, probably My Hero, just keeping it real, and Jujutsu and Chainsaw Man. Pretty much the order that I put them in this week, because, yeah, it was like crazy and sad. Well, no, actually, I take that back, because I started off with One Piece. But Black Clover, One Piece, My Hero, Jujutsu, Chainsaw Man. And it's not in the order of like, oh, they're all crap or anything like that. It's just in order of the importance, the big pieces that we got, the setups, the build-ups, the progression, everything that went down. It's like, yo, Black Clover just went endgame. We got Asta resolving a big situation with his relationship with a certain character. Is like, yeah, this is a big deal. So that's my stance. Let me know. Again, winner take all. That's all I have for this one. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule: anime and manga for life, boy. Have an awesome day. Peace in, and yeah, people, this has been Winner Take All. Okay, people, if you want more madness like this, I highly encourage you, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, get notified, because yeah, we're going in heavy, and this is going to be one of the hottest manga shows out, period.
So just go to